Hey guys, and welcome to another Schematics interview. This time we want to talk about Phantom Doctrine, and for that we invited Kacper. Hey.
Hey, hello.
How are you?
Stressed out.
I can imagine. So, okay, for listeners, we're recording that the day before the game goes live. So first of all, could you please introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Kacper. I'm the lead designer of Creative Forge Games, the creators of Phantom Doctrine.
So what is your gaming background, and what is some of the first games you remember playing, and how did you find your way into the gaming industry?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I tried to play pretty much anything. So I did play a lot of Commodore 64 games. That would be the oldest stuff. The one I really dig into back in the day was the first XCOM. So there are some parallels here. So the story is I used to play a lot and pretty much everything until my brother convinced me to just dig into a single game and, learn the ropes, explore it a bit. So I did, and I tried some level design for Unreal Tournament, for like communities and so on. And I managed to land a job at Techland, the makers of Call of Juarez, to do multiplayer level design.
Cool. You previously worked on Hard West.
Yes, correct.
I wonder what you learned while working on Hard West, and what did you do different this time?
Oh, a lot of it. Okay, so the biggest difference is, it's pretty prosaic. So the thing is, Phantom Doctrine has a way bigger budget, because the number one lesson we got from Hard West was that the expectations in this genre were big. Like a lot of reviews and a lot of complaints mentioned, I want to have one big campaign. I want to have a base which I upgrade. I want to level up my characters. I want to have a map where I can play generated missions and stuff like that, which makes the game about 4 times bigger. That's the main difference, to be honest. Obviously, it also gave us the possibility to add a lot of new features, like to expand the scope even more. But yeah, the scope is the biggest difference.
So let's get the elevator pitch here. What is Phantom Doctrine, and what is it about for people who might not know?
Oh my god, I'm really bad at this. So it's a turn-based tactical espionage thriller set in the Cold War. Yeah, that's the short version.
Okay, for people who want to know a longer version, watch our previous video about the game. The company you're working, Creative Forge, is from Poland, and that's same like Germany, where I live, in the center of Europe, which was the center of the Cold War, basically.
Right.
And I wonder, how did that affect the decision from you to go with the setting, and how close is the topic to your hearts?
Okay, so the thing is, I don't think any of us are old enough to actually recall the Cold War. However, the movies that you have in Poland, the movies that we watched when we were kids, and, well, it is a prevalent theme in a lot of Polish culture, because it was a different and difficult time in Poland. So, for example, in Phantom Doctrine, once your agent loses or gets enough heat, their identity is compromised, and you have to get them a new passport. And like, we understand the value of a passport in the Cold War. Like, I know it was a rare case to be able to get a passport so that you can travel abroad back in the day, from stories from my parents and so on. So I kind of feel that in the gut, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know the same stories from my grandparents and parents.
So it's all pretty close. Like, Berlin back in the day was like a very distant destination. Especially like the western side.
Yeah, right.
And like countries like the States or Canada, like, could be just as well on a different planet.
So you mentioned a lot of older movies. How much of Phantom Doctrine is inspired by popular fiction?
All of it. So Phantom Doctrine, in broad strokes, is 2 parts in terms of theme and the story. One is, it is a conspiracy theory of sorts, where we've researched factual events and characters and gave them a different context. So the way you build a conspiracy theory is you take facts that are unrelated but could be, and you connect them with bullshit. So that's exactly how, I know, InfoWars work, right? That's exactly how the story was structured. It's built on links between events that are historically disconnected, and we make the connections, like with usage of the conspiracy that is like behind it all. So they caused this, and then because of this they caused that different event. The other part of the game are all the movie inspirations, like Manchurian Candidate, for example, or Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, where we took a lot of leeway to put in the interesting and unexpected stuff in the game. So for example, you have this MK Ultra program that is a fact, right? Except no one exactly knows what the program was because it's classified. So we take the cover of MK Ultra and use it gameplay-wise. So you can, for example, capture an enemy agent and brainwash them or convert them or create sleeper agents or create a mole to feed you information from the opposite side. And that's fully fictional, but maybe it isn't. Same in hardware, we always look for a way to retain creative freedom despite having a somewhat realistic setting.
Another question regarding the setting is a lot of XCOM-like games have like one faction that you play and you have a clear enemy. In your case, you give the player the choice between two factions in the beginning, the CIA and the KGB. What made you decide to go that route?
First of all, there are actually three.
Right.
The third one is secret and you unlock it once you finish the game. So the main idea here was to give the game a lot of replayability because that is hugely important in the genre. However, we also wanted to have a story-heavy game, and story-heavy is contradictory to replayable, unless you do branching and a lot of investment in writing and so on. So instead of having tons of branching, we decided to go for 3 different openings and a couple of things different in between the missions later on to give the player a good reason to go for another playthrough so that they see the story from a slightly different perspective. So the story structure still stands as it is, you just learn new facts and have a different perspective.
That's awesome. Let's go a little bit more gameplay focused now. So a lot of turn-based games are pretty fantastical. For example, XCOM or Hard West.
Right.
How important was it for you to make the agents kind of fight in a believable way? Did this affect decisions when designing combat? So for example, there's no 360-degree field of view. People don't see you from behind. Overwatch is fired in a specific direction, stuff like that.
Okay, so it was pretty important. So the thing is, the rule of thumb for our agents was that they're supposed to be professional. For example, if they're professional and they can't jump over a chest-high wall, they don't really seem professional. If they miss a lot of the shots, they don't seem professional either. So, for example, when you watch a Bourne movie, he's very proficient and the stakes are always very high, and the agents that he opposes, they're all very skilled and experts at what they do. They're, top 1%. So that's exactly what we wanted to aim for. And hence a lot of the decisions that we have in the game, like efficient takedowns. Like, for example, instead of having hand-to-hand attacks that deal some damage, that would be kind of silly if you tried a takedown and the enemy was still standing. That's also why the guns always hit, except for like snipe shots or pistol shots. But if you shoot a burst or a full auto fire, it's destined to hit. It might be more or less efficient, but the shot was accurate.
I wonder, how did this affect the combat and mission design? Because you need to design the levels differently, right?
Yeah, of course. So the way we went around this was to build a set of rules for level design and like decide early on what should be the pace and what should be the angles and what should be like the density of enemies and so on any given moment of a level. Obviously, there are some exceptions, like open rooftop, where you can see pretty much anyone, but it's dumb to go to the rooftop where everyone can see you. But like most of the gameplay takes place interior. So once we decided that, we use the same like measurements and formulas throughout the whole game and every level.
So the game's description talks about unprecedented flexibility of movement. Can you explain what that means?
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
My guess is that some PR magic involved here. But the thing is, I think we have a couple of movement options more than XCOM does. I wouldn't bet on that. A lot of money, maybe a bit of money. Definitely more than Hard West. Like, it's very traversable. I'm not sure it's even a gameplay feature on its own. One big philosophy of Phantom Doctrine, especially compared to Hard West, was Phantom Doctrine was supposed to be way more convenient to play. You can save at any moment, you can load at any moment. There are a lot of gameplay features that you don't have to use at all if you don't feel like it. For example, you have this investigation board, right? That's a feature a lot of players like. However, just in case there's someone who doesn't, you can assign your agents to do that for you. It's the same way with pretty much everything. And going back to the flexibility of movement, we put in a lot of effort to making sure that you flow through the levels. There's an old rule of level design that says it is very bad if your players are fighting the level more than they're fighting the enemies. So we kind of make sure of that.
So base management is pretty standard for this type of game. What does Phantom Doctrine do different?
Oh, a lot of stuff. So for example, you print your own cache. You have a facility where you brainwash captured agents and your own as well. You can use chemical compounds to experiment on your own agents, try to build a super soldier. You can, for example, create new identities and have their change their passwords and have a full customization as well. You can customize weapons as well. You send your agents to trainings. Honestly, with pretty much every single facility that is standard, we try to give it a different spin, at least. So from my perspective, Phantom Doctrine is an experience tailored for a player who played XCOM and liked XCOM, but it wasn't enough. With respect to that, we try to make sure that every single thing in the game seems, well, it is understandable, but is fresh at the same time. So it has a slightly different take on the topic. Even it's like something super standard, like the healing facility.
So the investigation board and its minigame kind of connects the base management and the combat missions together in a way, and it also helps evolve the story. How did the design of that minigame come to be? Like, was that kind of a connection of the storytelling and the missions, or was this something that just came in because it's a part of the theme?
Okay, so it's pretty silly, actually. So I have this huge Evernote notebook where I keep a ton of notes. I keep getting ideas all the time, every day, and I keep them all in a single place. So whenever I start a new game, I go through all of this. And I found this investigation board idea from a couple of years ago. So when I pitched the idea for Phantom Doctrine internally, I said, and it will have this investigation board where you put pieces of intel on a corkboard and connect it with a string. It's very visceral. And the guys are like, okay, but how exactly is it going to work? And I didn't have the first clue at the time, but they trust me to deliver, so I did. Although it took a couple of months just on paper to figure something out. Because the problem is, in most games that have some sort of investigation board, they're always strictly story related. You just do scripted things on the board. You connect things that you should connect, and that's it. And our board is 100% generated, so it's very replayable. And that was the tricky part.
You said you came up with a lot of ideas over the years. And I'm pretty sure some of them didn't make it into the game.
Yes.
So I'm kind of hinting towards potential DLC. So how do you want to support the game after launch? Is there a DLC plan?
Yeah, there is. We'll have to adjust the plan based on the player feedback. Now that we have the game out there, or tomorrow we will, it makes a lot of sense to collect feedback and act based on that.
Right.
There is a schedule, there's a plan for a couple of options, but we're still waiting for the data to come in. However, answering your previous question about features that got cut, I have one that I'm really looking forward to bringing back into the game. So in tactical missions, you encounter law enforcement being the easiest opponents. There are some civilians, there are some mercenaries that are like the bulk of enemy forces. And you have enemy agents, which are like the wild cards, and they can carry any weapon, can have any abilities, and you can never know. So the idea was to insert enemy agents into missions incognito. So, for example, you would march your agent in front of a civilian who is an incognito agent, and what they would do is wait a second and then start following you.
That sounds interesting.
It even did work. It was in the game, actually, even after it was removed somehow. Imagine this, we had the feature already removed, disabled and everything, and we get a report from QA that they just got surprised and shot in the face by an incognito agent still hiding somewhere. Then we removed the feature again, and I haven't seen it since. I'd love to bring it back, but it's very hardcore. Like in terms of difficulty, the game is already a lot of surprises, and that was like completely different level of negative surprises.
Like the last thing you want is like a reverse Agent 47 following you around.
Yeah, that exactly was the experience of this.
Okay, so what is the future of Phantom Doctrine? And now is your opportunity to shout yourself out and tell people where they can find you on the internet.
I don't have the first goddamn clue. Ask me this question tomorrow at the same time and I might have an answer. So we're releasing in 24 hours and 16 minutes. At that point, there should be some press reviews available, and I hope it will be fine. Like the way I'm thinking is, Hardwest had 73 Metacritic score. This game is like 4 times bigger and everything is better. Except it's not cowboys and there are no demons. So I'm really hoping just to pass the 75 mark so that the score is green, and that's it. These are my expectations, nothing more, and I'll be tweeting a lot about how the game was made and a lot of trivia and so on my Twitter account, which is IllusionGD.
Cool. So first of all, thanks a lot for joining us and talking about Phantom Doctrine with us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. And for our viewers out there, thanks a lot for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you really liked the video, you may want to consider doing the extra step, heading over to Coffee to buy the editor, in this case me, a coffee, so I can stay up all night editing this video, so it's released in time for release date. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching.